Galah. The root of the word Megillah infers the idea of uncovering something, and one of the euphemistic terms that's used to uncover would be to take and move the hair back to uncover the ear. The term there would be galah. You move the hair back to uncover the ear. For what purpose? So that I can hear properly. Are you following me? You remove the hair, pull your hair back to expose the ear. Well, why would I want to do that? So that I can hear properly. Are you following me? So my ear is a symbol of my ability to hear or the lack of ability to hear. And I shared with you a few weeks ago in John chapter 10, verse 18, when they come to take Yeshua in the garden, Peter cuts off the ear of one known as Malchus, the servant of the high priest. The word Malchus comes from Malkut, which is the kingdom. And what's being acted out, rehearsed in front of you, was the fact that the ability to hear the word of Yahweh had been cut off from the kingdom. Does that sound like it might be connected to the story of Esther? Well, what does Yeshua do? Yeshua takes the ear and puts the ear back on, inferring that he is going to restore the ability to hear to the kingdom. Well, how can you hear if you don't have the word? You can't, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word. Romans 10:17. Now, Zephaniah 3:9 says that he's restoring a pure language for the express purpose of what? Hearing. Do you follow me? Well, and you're told in Mark chapter 4, verse 24 to take heed what you hear. Pay attention to what you hear, because the way that you measure it will determine how it's measured back to you. Well, the word for measure here is referring to a set of balances, scales. And I've shared this on several occasions, but it bears repeating. The word for scales in Hebrew is mozanim. That's plural. The mem prefix means out of the ozanim. Well, the root of the word ozanim is ozon. This is an ozon here. Your ear is called an ozon. And so if you have two ears, that becomes a set of scales and balances for the express purpose that you should balance, you should measure everything that you're hearing. Are y'all getting this? I'm going to tell you, if you don't get it, it will affect how you survive in the days that are in front of you. This is how crucial this message is. I shared with you earlier that Esther's contemporary with Daniel and Ezekiel and Ezra and Nehemiah. Didn't I say that? Well, let's look at it and see if we can prove that. Did you know that the rabbis believe, and rightly so, that he is seen in Esther chapter 4, verse 5. There's an individual there in that particular verse. His name is Hathach. And they say he's the chief eunuch, the chief of the eunuchs that were in charge of those individuals that were being prepared to be brought before the king. And of course, Esther was the one that he was primarily responsible for. And the sages teach that that was Daniel. Now pay attention here. Because if that's the case, then I should, since they're contemporary and they were together with one another, then I should be able to connect something regarding Daniel in this sealing up and hiding things. Well, isn't that what was said to Daniel in Daniel chapter 12, verse 4? He said, and you remember what Daniel's doing? Daniel's in the middle of a 21-day fast. Isn't that right? And he's trying to figure out some things that's going on, and an angel appears to him. And he begins to reveal these things to him. And Daniel is trying to figure these out, and finally he gets so caught up with it that the angel tells him, Daniel, chill out. Daniel says, because of my cogitations, I was made sick. Trying to figure it out. And the angel basically says, Daniel, chill out. Verse 4 of chapter 12. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Because at the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Wait a second. Seal up the book until the time of the end. Because many will run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Wait a second there. If the book has been sealed up and it's going to be sealed until the time of the end, well, it leads me to believe the reason that I need it to be unsealed is because of this last phrase, many will be running to and fro and knowledge will be increased. Are you following me? Is that hard? Let's look at a couple of these words in Hebrew. The word shut, Strong's number 5640, it's the word satham. It's spelled with a samic, tav, mem. You know the samic, if you saw a pictograph of it, it's a prop, a support. Much like I would be leaning on this desk, the desk becomes a samic. It props me up, right? This word means to hide, to conceal, to stop up, like you would plug up a well. A well of living waters. Well, the word root, the two-letter root, is the word tam. That word tam, tav mem, is the root of it means integrity and completeness. It's the word that's used to reference the quality or the qualification for a sacrifice. It has to be full of integrity. It has to be perfect without blemish. Well, what then would be representing the integrity of Yahweh, the completeness of Yahweh, that would need to be shut up? The only thing it could be was His Word. Am I right? The word for seal. Notice this. This is pretty interesting. The word for seal here, Strong's number 2856. I want you to pay attention. 5640 is the word for shut. 2856 is the word for seal. If you'll note, it looks as if they're spelled or sound almost exactly like. This one here, seal, is spelled with a kit. That gives it the guttural chatham, whereas this one has a samic satham. The same two-letter root is in here. And this two-letter root, tam, infers something about integrity, purity, wholeness, and completeness. Now, if you look at the kit serves to remind us that something is being fenced off and protected. Are y'all getting this? Chatham means to set a seal on, to seal it up by affixing an impression to serve as a seal. Y'all remember the old Elizabethan pictures where you'd see someone send out a letter or a scroll, and they would take wax and they would put the wax on the seal and then take their signet ring as an impression? Well, here, whatever is put over the top as a seal, the impression of it is what hides it. The Word is sealed over and hidden. The impression of the Word over the Word changed. Are y'all getting that? Keep looking. It says, seal it up until the end. The word end here, Strong's number 7093, is the word ketz, and it means a certain point reached in time, the finish of something. I think that would aptly define the day you and I are living in. So the book that Daniel was told to seal up is going to be kept sealed until this day you and I are living in, right? Well, it also sounds like Yahweh's already told us there in the book of Esther, said it in Deuteronomy first, but it became prophetically demonstrated in the book of Esther. Esther, and remember, Esther and Daniel are together. They were there together. Both of them were at the same place at the same time. And so if Daniel was charged with sealing up a book, do you think maybe it might have been the book of Esther? Do you think it might have had something more to do with the book of Esther? Maybe it was the Torah that was sealed up, or the way that the Hebrew language was changed or sealed, and it's hidden in the book of Esther like it's hidden in the book of Daniel. Remember, he said, I'm going to restore pure language. Something as pure as that word tam. I'm going to restore the pure language, the tam language. Well, that evidently leads me to believe it's been corrupted, or at least the form of it has up until this day. Am I correct? This is pretty interesting, isn't it? It says that men will run to and fro. The phrase there for that in Hebrew is shoot, 77:51. Turn to your neighbor and tell them shoot. Of course, it means to and fro. But it's also related to the word suit, 7750. You just move the little dot from the one side of the sheen to the other. Instead of saying shh, it becomes a s sound. So this word suit means to turn aside, to fall back, to go into apostasy. what's happening here is that it becomes clear. The words of the book were to be sealed. And when he says book, I believe he's talking about the book that Moses saw that walked away from him. I believe he's talking about the Torah. The Hebrew language was sealed for a season. And I believe that Yahweh, by virtue of the fact that he has to give you at least 2 witnesses, every doctrine has to be established in the mouth of at least 2 witnesses. I believe the book of Esther is here as your second witness to prove that the book had been sealed. Okay? It's clear that the words of the book were sealed, plugged up to staunch the flow of living waters. How? By affixing a seal or an impression upon them, changing the letters until a specific time when a great apostasy would take place. And it would be only during that great falling away. That's what apostasy means. Only in the middle of that great falling away that Esther would be forced to be identified. You see how important it is to recognize this book? I thought it was interesting. In Esther chapter 2, verse 7, it mentions specifically that she did not have a father or a mother. It means that she has no way of tracing her lineage, which is exactly like the bride today. We're also caught up. I wonder if I'm from the house of Judah, or maybe I'm a Levite, maybe from Dan, Naphtali, Asher. It doesn't matter, because our identity is going to be supplied by Yahweh. Y'all see that? Let's continue to look. At this particular juncture in time when Esther was revealed here, her identity is made known. She has to confront Haman. Am I right? Well, guess what? When this Esther, this bride, this remnant is revealed, the reason we're going to be revealed is because we're going to have to confront Haman. If we don't deal with Haman, all of our people will be destroyed. And the destruction will be far greater than what could have ever been conceived in the minds of men in this book known as Esther, or any other point in history. The destruction is coming. So it's imperative that you start listening to the voice of Yahweh and gaining as much of an understanding as you can of the Hebrew language, the Word of Yah. Now, again, back to that number 17. The number 17 is also attached to the Hebrew letter Peh, which means mouth. And it also is the root of the word pane, which means face. And it also, again, adds more emphasis to Exodus 33, where Yahweh says, you can't see my face and live. And in Deuteronomy, he says, I'm going to hide my face. And in the book of Esther, where he says, my face is not seen. The Aster Pani, the hidden face, the face of Esther, the Esther face. Now think about that. It's also interesting that Esther is going to be completely hidden except from just a few until her time of deliverance. And I want to call your attention to Esther chapter 4, verse 14. And Esther's concerned about identifying herself and honoring what Yahweh's called her to do. How about you? Are you is there a little concern in your heart? Y'all aren't even paying attention. All right. I promise you, if you don't get this, there will come a day when you would wish you had. And I might not be around to explain it then. This is a matter of how you're going to live or not. You hear me? A lot of us are concerned about whether or not we will make it. And maybe we need to be very careful. If you don't call attention to yourself, maybe it won't be so bad. Well, maybe Yahweh will send somebody else. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes we catch so much slack from so many different people that I think, Father, send somebody else. This is a daily thing. We are constantly, consistently, on a daily basis attacked because of what we're speaking, what we're preaching. Well, Esther was beginning to feel the brunt of that pressure. And here's what Mordecai says. For if you altogether hold your peace at this time, then enlargement and deliverance will arise to the Jews from another place. But he goes on to tell her, you and your household will be killed. But who knows? if not for just such a time as this, you've been